Happy Thursday morning, everybody. This is Jeff Phillips calling in from a business center in a hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. I hope you're doing great. Just before we get going on the webinar today, I want to make sure that you're hearing me so I don't talk into an empty mic for an hour. Do you mind using your control panel, your question panel, and just indicating that you can hear us okay? Um, Amy, we've already got a question. Where can I get one of those sweet Xero t-shirts? You have any opinions on that? Thanks everybody for chiming in. Okay, so Amy, you got to answer the question at some point in time about Xero t-shirts. I have one. I'm a proud owner. It's definitely a every once in a while something I wear to work, and sometimes for exercise. So we are recording. This will be shared over the internet. I'm Jeff Phillips with Accounting Fly, welcoming everybody. We have a very large turnout. So I want to thank the sort of Accounting Fly regulars, those of you who are involved in recruiting, mostly inside accounting firms and corporations that recruit accountants. Thanks for being here. See a lot of friendly faces. You guys know how this works. Chime in with questions, and we're going to ask Amy, our presenter, plenty of questions if you have them. And we also partnered with CPA Academy. So I very much appreciate Scott and Matt and the team from there who brought in some of their audience as well. So a lot of times when we do CPA Academy, not everybody's in an accounting firm, Amy. They're also in different types of organizations. And so that's definitely going to be the case today. Although a lot of what we're talking about is how technology attracts accountants in general. We're probably going to use the word firm a lot, okay? But that being the case, that doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to those of you who are in corporations, government settings, not-for-profits, nonprofits, whatnot. Just a quick word on what is Accounting Fly for those of you who aren't familiar. We like to call ourselves the career center to the accounting profession. We are changing the model for how accounting employers hire accountants in a day and time where it is very, very hard to hire accountants, as I'm sure you know. If you have any questions about how Accounting Fly's very innovative model works, or you'd like to speak to some of our happy customers, we'd be thrilled to put you in touch with them. My email is jeff@accountingfly.com. It's with a J, not the old English Jeffrey Chaucer, Geoff. You don't want to do that. Just jeff@accountingfly.com. Firms that have great technology attract great talent. There is no doubt in my mind that is true. We have asked CPAs if this is true, and they have told us that this is important to them in their job search. And I think not only is it a matter of buying the right technology, acquiring the right technology, it's a matter of changing your mindset, and it is a matter of understanding what's out there. So you're in for a treat because Amy Vetter is going to talk about that mindset and talk about connecting the dots. And help you get along this path of maybe influencing your own organization to have the right mindset around technology. I'm going to bring in Amy in just a second, but I just want to tell you a little bit about her because she's probably not going to brag on herself. But Amy is the Global Vice President of Education and Head of Accounting for United States at Xero. If you are not familiar with Xero, you will be in love with Xero by the end of this presentation, I bet you. Amy is a CPA. She's accountable for developing and executing the education strategy for Xero worldwide. That means Xero University. And her role includes innovating new ways to educate Xero's customers, as well as creating management training programs for Xero's accounting partners, like some of you. Amy is a business owner. Amy has owned an accounting firm. Amy has worked at a large accounting firm, and now she teaches accountants about, and I'm using my words going off script here, about the future. Better than anyone I've ever come across. So I'm excited. Amy, I'm going to hang tight and get out of your way, and I'm going to be back with questions. I'm also going to administer some polls because you can earn CPE for this webinar, and we'll be happy to administer 4 polls during the session. Answer those polls, and that'll help us understand more about where we need to take the webinar presentation. So, Amy, I'm in a hotel. I think. Are you traveling today too?
Yes, I am.
Where are you calling from?
I'm in from San Francisco.
We're 2 pretty cool locations. Well, I landed in Nashville and I didn't check the weather and it's 38 degrees and I didn't bring a
Ooh,
jacket. So
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Well,
thank you so much for having me.
thanks for being here. And you get going, and I'll check in and run the polls when it's time. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending today. I know this is a busy time of the year. I am really, really excited to present this today. I've been stepping back the last couple months and doing some research because in my role as the global education head and as well as the head of accounting in the US, I visit with a lot of customers. I'm also a CPA myself and ran an accounting practice and sold it back in 2010, but have always been very firmly, proactively trying to help accountants and firms get to the cloud, get the technology deployed in their practices so that they can really see the benefits of how they can serve their clients. But I've definitely been seeing trends happening, I would say even more the last year, of firms really wanting to do this and having trouble making that change because it's more than technology. So the title of this presentation is that firms that have great technology attract the next generation, which is an important piece of how you change your firm, but it's the technology and it's also the change management behind that. So last year, I spent time going through what we consider is a connected advisor at Xero, and where the different stages a firm or in a solo practitioner goes through in order to achieve really making this change in your practice and how you serve your clients with technology. But one of the topics that I was really seeing resonate is this topic of I need to recruit people into my firm. However, my firm is not very attractive to this next generation, and I haven't really figured out what that model is. So I've taken some time to go back and first kind of go through the history of accounting and how we got here in the first place. And then secondly, give you some steps and tools to think about of ways that you could change your firm in order to be a going concern in the next 10 years, 20 years, where you can eventually sell your practice, possibly merge, or be able to keep your practice the way it is, but have the younger generation want to stay with your practice and grow into your firm. So where I'm going to start today is my grandfather. My grandfather was a CPA, so I have in my life really lived in the shadow of my grandfather and the stories about my grandfather. My grandfather was licensed as a CPA in 1935, and so while I've been putting this together, I've been trying to go back and understand, I've been told a lot of stories over time, but what was it that he was doing in the 30s and 40s as a CPA versus what we do today as a CPA? And the research became pretty interesting as I got into it. So I actually asked, he was a CPA at the state of Minnesota, so licensed in the state of Minnesota. He was a member of the Minnesota State Society, as well as eventually the AICPA. And I was having a lot of trouble finding information at that time because there's not as much in the records of what people were doing. And all I had were stories, so I was trying to validate it. And what I found out was I went to the Minnesota State Society, and they actually gave me the offices that he worked in from 1937 all the way through 1977 when he died. So it was really interesting to go back and see what that work was like. Now, to give you a little background on my grandfather, he was an immigrant. His family was an immigrant. They came from Russia, so they were an immigrant family. He was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, but they came here in 1898, and he was born in 1903. So very young, he was a twin, and his twin died when he was about 5 years old. But his parents still had three more children, and they lived in an immigrant area. And in that immigrant area, it's very tight-knit groups and all together trying to create a better life for the future, for themselves and for future generations. So as immigrants, accounting was definitely very attractive because it was a very stable job. However, when you go back and look at what accounting was at the time, it was very different than what it was today. So the IRS was actually formed in 1862, and in 1887, 31 accountants created the AICPA. It was not until 1914 that the 1040 was even released. So what I find interesting about this and why I bring up his immigrant past is because at that time, what I'm finding is accounting didn't have as much regulation. It was very new, and it was very relationship based. So it wasn't really until the Great Depression, when the SEC was formed in 1934, that you start seeing that more and more complication comes into the accounting world. So stories of my grandfather, that have really been passed down to me by my mother, is that he did a lot of work, but he did it in trade. So, that work was she got a new fur coat every year because he had a client that was a furrier. Or, they had free tickets to the symphony instead of getting paid in cash and so forth. So what that really draws together was everybody was living in close quarters. They were very tight as a community. And the other thing that, as I've tracked through the records as well about his family, his brother was a CPA, his sister graduated from business school, and she was married to a CPA, and they all worked in the same buildings. And so when I got those list of buildings, they also gave me the addresses of his relatives. And so that is actually a picture of the first office building that he was ever in. But what was really interesting about it is it was a community, and it was creating networks of people that were sharing information so that they could all succeed and create a better life, and very close with their clients so that they could help their clients create a better life as well. And this is also a picture of a written ledger at the time, so there wasn't much technology. It was all manual calculation as well in order to get this information out for their clients. Now, really, when I look in the chunks, there was, some breaks of when it looks like accounting really started changing. And I call this era the compliance era once we get to the 1950s. So just to give you an example, when the 1040 started, it was one page, and it is of instructions. And now it's up to 174 pages of instructions. We've got 9,000 sections in the tax code. So when you think about this from a accounting profession standpoint, what happened here was the compliance got extremely heavy. Accounting gets more and more complicated. What happens in that client-account relationship is it starts drawing the accountants further away from their clients and more into siloed offices where sometimes you don't see your client very much, that the workload has gotten so heavy that it really takes a lot to get it done and not as much time to really be meeting with the client as well. And what you see here is a picture of a 10 key, and so this is really where technology starts getting introduced, where you could actually speed up calculations, with this, but still very paper-based as well, because we're using calculators, but we're also, having to take that information and then transposing it to written documents. Now, what becomes interesting is when computers start entering our profession. And I use this picture here to really demonstrate the walls start going up in our offices. So we've got all this data that we start storing in our desktops and our servers. We have spreadsheets that start getting introduced as well, that we start using to calculate information and make our jobs easier. When we're working alone most of the time. So we get assigned client work. However, that office is designed what I'm calling connected advisor era, because this is what we've been talking about as a company for the last year, of really changing that trajectory of data locked in a desktop versus data that's in the cloud that I can collaborate with my client and be able to still do my accounting work and be able to process that faster so that I can now spend more time with my client again. And what's interesting about this is what we've been talking about over the last few years is all about, being advisors and really getting out there, understanding our clients' businesses. And when I go back and look at history, that's really where accounting began. And what the cloud is actually allowing us to do is drive us back to what accounting was all about, becoming that trusted advisor and really helping our small businesses thrive. So what we do at Xero, if you aren't familiar with us, is create this technology and the information so that you are able to deliver these services in a new way. Now, as part of the research, I've spent time with many consultants and industry leaders, as well as looking up different surveys that have been taken by PwC, KPMG, AICPA, and so forth. And what's really interesting is the divide between what our clients want, what we want, and even within companies, what we're delivering versus what the expectation is of what we should be delivering. So if you look at some of these statistics that I'm showing on the screen, you see that 1 in 3 CEOs do not think their CFO is providing them the value that they expect. 66% of global CEOs don't believe that the CFO title adequately reflects the diversity in their role. And I really find that interesting, because what happens is that we have been tied up for so many years creating financial reporting and in the data and in the spreadsheets and calculating. But when our small businesses and CEOs of those small businesses want information, they do not care how long it took us to calculate. So there's a divide of what we started valuing as a profession of calculation and the time to get the work done versus what our small businesses, clients, CEOs in businesses expect is it's not about the time that it took. They want information. They want information about their business. They want to know how to do things better. They do not care how long it takes you to get to that answer. The quicker the better. And that is what technology provides. It's how you interpret that data that now is being generated at a quicker pace so that you can deliver the value now that these clients and CEOs expect of accountants and CFOs. Now, what this really is turning credence good to experience good. And what I mean by that is credence good is, well, I think I get good value from my accountant. I don't really know what they do, but they provide me a financial statement every year and I get my taxes done on time. So they're fine. To an experience good, that the experience they have with your firm, with your practice, is so unbelievable that they can't imagine not having you as part of their business. They know what you provide. And so these are some quotes that we've taken from some of our small businesses that work with our Xero advisors of why it's important that they have that Xero advisor in their business. I value a thorough pair of eyes on the work. The money is not my forte. So this is where I feel a lot of times when I speak to accountants, there's a misinterpretation that, oh, well, the work is going to go away when technology makes all of this faster. It actually, what it does is, yes, there is information that the clients demand to make better decisions and to keep up to date, but they still are not an accountant. They still do not have your experience behind them to be able to understand the information. So great quote here. I rely on my accountant to make sure my company is headed in the right direction and that I'm using capital in the right way. So they've got a financial statement. They don't know what it means and they don't know how to make future decisions. So with that, let's go to our first polling question.
All right, I'm bringing it up, Amy. Amy, these are awesome quotes. Okay, guys, we're going to launch the first quote. And Amy, this is: Are you currently a Xero partner? Just to help everyone understand, if a Xero partner is if you're an accountant using Xero, I'm going to launch it. We'll give you about 30, 45 seconds. Just select one of the following answers and hit submit. You'll need to answer all 4 questions to be eligible for the CPE. So hang tight and go to webinar. It's like totally hanging up on me, so have to hang tight. Okay, Amy. So we've got about 92% voted. I'm going to go ahead and give you the results. So guys, you have like 3 seconds to submit an answer. Amy, I'll just verbally read them off to you. So 13% are saying, "Hey, what's a Xero partner?" 82% said no, not a Xero partner, and 5% said, "Yep, I'm a Xero partner." I'm going to close out the poll, Amy, and let you comment and proceed. Okay.
All right, great. Yeah, that's wonderful. We wanted to know, from the audience, where you were as far as your Xero journey. So that's great. And we definitely are here to answer any questions you have on that as well as we get through the presentation. So what we saw last year, I believe, is that cloud technology happened. And what's interesting is for so long, like I said, cloud technology really started being developed in early 2000s, maybe late 90s, but it really didn't start taking off until the last 5 years, where accountants really started seeing the value of what it could provide. So, what you're seeing here is really the old way that things were done, that lots of information is coming at the accountant from the bank, from suppliers, from customers. It comes into the accountant and then it gets trapped in that desktop software. And the problem with that is that the client has absolutely no view into that. So when they are getting their financial reports, that's not until maybe 6 months after the year is over, which they can no longer make an impact on that. It's not real-time information. So once we get it into our desktop software, we were reconciling it, making sure all the information was correct, then providing financial reports, and possibly, depending on the size of the business, having an audit done. So in this new way, we're actually taking the information from the bank, suppliers, and customers and directly connecting it through bank feeds. So this is what we do at Xero. So we take out all that manual work so that that's not coming all at a person, bringing it into the system. But without the advisor involved, again, it's just data that's in a system. So our tool helps connect the small business and the advisor together so that they can better interpret that information. Now, what's really cool about what is happening with technology and how this is moving to the future is really driving it to automation, continuous certification, and getting this data so that you can actually analyze it and be able to deliver that relationship service where you are helping a small business thrive. So at Xero, we've taken what was a data locked in a desktop or in accounting software and created a platform. So we look at accounting as one piece of the platform, but it's also all the connections that are out there that come into the accounting software. So that may be from the bank, that could be from third-party add-ons. It also is the people. So the people interacting with that accounting solution, the small businesses, the accountants, all the different vendors, and how you connect all that information together. So you don't need the manual data entry, but you can get paid faster, possibly. You can analyze the information and figure out where things are going wrong in your business or not, and either improve on them or keep working on something that's going really well. Now, what the cloud has allowed us to do is take that information and make it mobile. So this is where the technology piece of how you change your firm really changes everything between the people that work in your firm and how they're able to get work done, and the small businesses that also work with you as well, and how they can get their information as well. So when it's available on an iPad, a computer, a phone, they can actually access this data from anytime, anywhere, and it does not require someone to be in an office at a certain time of day to be able to do the work. Now, what makes this even more amazing is where this is all going. So where accounting, when we got into that compliance era that I spoke about before, where data is locked in the desktop, and we're really reactive instead of proactive, what you're seeing here is where technology is going, where if I see something as the accountant today, I can actually be proactive and send alerts to my client or to different people in my firm to let them know that there needs to be immediate action happening on something today, which can change the whole relationship between the accountant and the client and creates a way for you to put more value into the services that you deliver. So let's stop here and do our second polling question.
All right, Amy, and you get a glass of water. I can tell you're battling a cough, and thank you for fighting through it. And I hope you feel better. I'm gonna fire out this polling question for a second. And what we are trying to accomplish here is how many clients do you manage, and what does your practice look like? So if you can just select one of them. I don't have clients, and none. I'm looking to grow. 1 to 5, 6 to 25, or 25 plus, and you can just look at it. How you personally work with clients. So we'll take probably 25 seconds more to get this going. Again, if you can answer all 4 polling questions, that sure helps us understand you guys, and it absolutely will get you a CPE through CPA Academy if you're looking for that kind of a certificate. And Amy, as people are wrapping up here, when we go back to that last polling question, they asked, what is a Xero partner? And before we break, I do want you to talk about how people become that. And I'm hopefully there'll be some time at the end where you can address that. But we do have a few questions that I'd like to ask.
Sure. Great.
Thanks. With 95% of the audience, I'll give you Amy, just a verbal kind of recap. But 44% don't have clients, probably a lot of in-house accounting staff. 4% say none, but I'm looking to grow. 18% of the audience, it's almost evenly split between everybody else. 18% have 1 to 5. 19% have 6 to 25 clients, and 16% have 25 plus clients. So a really even split between the size, but kind of a lot of in that sweet spot, I would say, between answers, you know, 3 and 4. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Thanks a lot for submitting, and Amy, I'll let you keep going.
Great. Yeah, so that's really helpful to know as well. And so for those of you that don't have clients or looking to go into a firm or that you're growing your firm, these are definitely things to be thinking about. It's the perfect opportunity to make some of these changes in your practice real time so that you go into the future. So, it's awesome you're here today to really learn about this. So as I've been talking to millennials and also firm owners and also just doing some research on this, you know, really looking at what are the things that attracts this next generation of accountants into a firm, because it's very different than it was prior, when you're looking in that compliance era time frame, because at that time, firms were very traditional, the work was very consistent, and now we're moving into a generation where the technology is changing monthly. There's always new things that you can deliver. And so, how do you uh, deploy that into your firm to make your firm exciting, not only to new staff people, but also to the clients that you serve? So, just, so you get an idea, right now 70% of the workforce is in the millennial stage. And this is, really staggering where, it's been so heavily weighted in the baby boomer era for so long. And now this is really what's driving change that I believe in the accounting profession, because what's happening in this generation is they're not accepting this way of life anymore. They don't want to come in to a firm and work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, doing work that is redundant. And they want to find purpose in the things that they do. And one of the key terms, that I've seen is this work-life integration versus work-life balance. So what that means is that it doesn't mean that the millennial generation is lazy, that they don't want to work the same amount of hours as the baby boomers. That is actually not the issue. The issue is they want to work when they want to work. They don't want work to get in the way of the things that they like to do, the quality of life that they have. But work and life integrate. So there isn't really a beginning and end of work or a beginning of end of when I'm not working. It all is a common thread throughout the day. So when millennials were interviewed, 59% said an employer's provision of technology was very important to them. And so you can see here that the technology you put into your practice, again, whether it's a client that you're trying to bring into your practice or a younger generation that you're trying to recruit in, this is really important that technology is deployed and you're keeping up to date with it. I love to use this example because I have children, nieces and nephews that are this age group. And this is really when I had an aha moment of why there's such a difference between these generations that are in these existing firms today versus this generation that's coming through. And this picture really depicts the way I see my kids, my nephews, my nieces working and collaborating together. So this is them socializing, and they've got electronics, as you can see, and they're all sitting together but not necessarily talking. They could be all on the same game at the same time, sharing music. The other thing that I see them do is my son will be playing a game on his phone, and when he's can't get to the next level, he turns to his friend or his cousin and says, "Can you get me past this level?" And one day I went to him and I said, "Do you feel like you accomplished that?" And he said, "Yes," which was amazing to me because when I grew up, you had to accomplish that yourself. That would not be a feeling of accomplishment if someone else got you through the next step of a video game. So when you're thinking about designing your firm, this is something that you need to incorporate in, that it's actually a team, not a siloed workforce anymore. They want to work together and collaborate in order to accomplish their goals. So what you're seeing here is at XeroCon last year, which is our annual conference. We'll be having it again in August in San Francisco. We have these sessions called, and what they are is TED-style type talks where a topic that is a little bit different and off the beaten track. And this hour was all about the next generation. And we had 2 or 3 millennials during that hour speak about what was important to them. So we've taken a snippet of it so that you can hear it yourself today. And I'm going to play it right now.
But actually having someone ask me this gave me the opportunity to take some time to reflect on what I truly valued and what I was looking for in an employer. And like many, I want diversity in teams, opportunities for growth, accessibility to mentors. But when it really came down to it, the biggest factor for me was whether or not I was going to be able to have a work-life balance. See, money incentives aren't the things that make me happy. Being able to have the opportunity to excel in my career and still be able to do the things that I love, now that's what makes me happy.
So you have us millennials. This is kind of a stereotypical view of what a millennial looks like, probably to a baby boomer, right? Sitting there with your MacBook, playing music, being all chill, right? So you have millennials, and we watched our fathers, and in many cases we watched our mothers work their butts off, right? We watched them succeed, and we learned from it, and we absorbed it. And what did we learn? We learned that you can dream. We learned that this country and that this industry is amazing and it can do great things. And we absorbed that, and we learned it, and we watched it over the years. And so the dreams, we are dreamers. We think big, and we think huge. We innovate. We do things differently. We don't do the same thing because that's the way it's always been done. We make it better. And why do we do that? Because our parents taught us that we could, and we can, and we are.
So I think it's interesting to hear it from their voices of what's important to them. And some of the key things that you hear about is that they want to believe in a mission. They want to have growth opportunities. They want to think big. They want room to learn. They want a collaborative culture. They want to be able to work together, have a fun work environment, but also be mentored. So what this means is it moves things away from the traditional way of accounting, where we move away from time and billing. And I know this topic comes up a lot in my Connected Advisor talk. I talk more about this, that when you move away from time and billing, it's not just about changing to value pricing, changing your technology. It's also this stuff where you've got to change the underlying way that you work in order to be profitable in a value billing scenario. But with the millennial generation, if you were to give them a chargeable hour goal, they're going to quit. They don't want to have that kind of life. So changing the conversation to project-based budgets, making sure there's transparency in what's happening in the firm and how that's affecting them, not keeping things behind closed doors and information about the firm behind closed doors, really changes the whole relationship between the staff and the management of a firm. also having the right technology is key so that you can manage this and make sure that you're still profitable. So at Xero, we have something called Practice Manager, which allows you to be able to manage projects in this way. Staff can put in where they are on different projects. There's due dates, but so everyone's got to hit timelines, and there's obviously ways to track milestones and profitability, but this is really important when you're changing the conversation to effort versus time. Going back to what I was saying before, that work-life integration happens all the time, not just from 8 to 5 or 8 to 8. They're not going to come into work before the partner gets in and leave after the partner leaves. That day and age is gone. What they want to do is just know that they're going to be awarded for their accomplishments as they move through projects. So let's do our third polling question before I go to the next section.
Amy, as I'm launching this, I'm reminded of a quote that we heard recently, that the race for talent is over and the talent won. And whether you agree with your points or not, these things are really happening. Whether you want to hire managers, seniors, and staff, we've got to pay attention to these things. So everybody, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. What services do you offer your clients? And you're able to select more than one, but it would help us to understand a little bit more about what kind of business that you are in. So compliance and tax returns, bookkeeping, strategic planning, accounting software, consulting, or none. And we'll give you about 25 seconds. And Amy, a lot of questions came through when you asked that question, and I'll give you a chance to talk about this while we're letting this come in. But a lot of the feedback was, well, are these millennials, these rascals, gonna trade 50% of their pay for a 50% improvement in job satisfaction? And it is a very fair question, because if someone's going to claim, well, money's not important, then okay, well then volunteer at my company, and then I'll make you the happiest employee. But my take is, look at the job market. You have to pay top dollar for accountants at every level, but it is not, so it's a given, but it is not going to sort of sway somebody between choosing you versus choosing another employer. It's these other factors that are going to impact that.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. So I'm going to be talking about that in just a second, of the other things you're offering besides pay that's going to make the decision of why someone would want to work in your firm versus another. And I wouldn't automatically assume that you're going to make less money. I would expect you're going to make more money based on some of the concepts that I'm about to go through with you, so that you can really, again, not thinking about how you process work today, but more thinking about how will you do it tomorrow, so that you can create those efficiencies and create profitability and dependable revenue every single month.
I'm glad you're going there based off the questions. And so I'll quickly summarize. 48% are in compliance and tax, 41% are in bookkeeping, 30% in strategic planning, 21% accounting software, and 36% are none. So across the board, with roughly almost, and you could select multiple, by the way, but the top two are compliance and bookkeeping. So I'm going to go ahead and hide these results and throw it back over to you.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to go into how we develop the right skills in order to do what I'm talking about. And the absolute first thing when you're talking about what is going to attract this generation is that your firm has a purpose. Purpose and culture are now inseparable. And I'll repeat that. Purpose and culture are now inseparable. And the reason I'm repeating that is because accounting firms in the compliance era are taking any client that comes in the door. But you heard from them yourself that they need to feel like they have a mission in your firm, that there's something that they're passionate about that gets them excited about coming to work every day. So understanding what your purpose is in your firm and how you're going to attract that client base that is going to align with that purpose and culture are inseparable. So there are what I, have here, what I think, are 5 steps to getting there. The first thing is the selection process. So really just going through what are the, even if you've got a client base today, who is naturally being attracted to you, and are you enjoying the work? Also looking at your staff, talking to them, what types of passions and things that they do, types of industries that they love, and really start narrowing down, the things that, the types of industries that you would love to be in, because working with those types of clients would not feel like work. And also matching that up against, just from an industry data point perspective, do those industries, are they profitable industries? So for example, I am a yoga instructor, I have a yoga studio, and health and wellness is a huge passion of mine. But if I were to take my practice and focus on health and wellness, I would have to make sure that the industry that I choose also has the data points that they are going to pay for accountants and use that help, and I will be able to, just like many of you are saying, still make money going into those industries. But it wouldn't feel like work because I enjoy that field so much, and I would love to help those business owners. So the second thing is really matching that against your expertise. So making sure that the industries that you select are things that you're really good at and you could succeed at. And I talked about the market assessment, matching that up against whether there's enough clients out there. So, being a big fish in a small pond is important, but also making sure the pond is big enough that you can make money. Then you start assessing technology in that area. So what are the software that's going to help those clients, but also help you drive those efficiencies in your practice so that you can deliver to that industry and really come away when, so for using that same example, if a yoga studio were to come to my firm and say they want to work with me, I'm such an expert in that industry, I've got the technology to show them what their daily life is going to look like, how they're going to get information, that it would be crazy for them to not want to work with me. And then lastly, that again, going back, does it match the purpose and the culture of your firm? Now at Xero, we have many, many add-ons to our product, and so you can really shift and change the industries based on the solutions that you put together with Xero. So Xero is the general ledger, the place you collaborate with your client, but your client might be in a POS software that they're in all day long. You need that information to integrate into Xero so that you don't have to do the data entry and be able to get them that instant information to help analyze the data and give them the real-time advice that they're going to want in their business. Now, providing this path to advisory is not easy because what everybody's gone to school for is the financial side. And one thing I have my CGMA, which is Certified Global Management Accountant license, and when I went to school and took management accounting, I didn't like it. But what I ended up doing in my career was all management accounting, and I love it. So providing that right path to understand what is the difference between management accounting and financial accounting is very different, because the data that we're providing in these cloud applications allows you to actually analyze the business and give advice. So really taking a learning path from what your comfort zone is today with compliance, bookkeeping type work, and how you move that to a value zone where you can take that information and advise on that. Technology is a key here to help you do that, so you don't have to manually calculate this. Remember, the time that it takes to get to the answer is not what the client values. What they value is how quick you can give them that answer and be able to interpret the data that they don't understand. Now, what this means is it opens up a whole bunch of different services that you can add on. So we call these our connected advisor offerings. So with, taking from the compliance work, financial reporting, now I can start building into the CFO financial statement analysis, cash flow management, strategic planning, budgeting, all of these types of services that I can now have on a more recurring basis and start upselling my services to my clients. Now, with Xero, what we do is take this data and actually start unlocking these insights to business owners that drive these conversations so that you can start upselling these relationships. So we have something called business performance dashboards. These dashboards actually allow you to be able to see what's going on in the business. Now, clients are going to see that chart and not necessarily understand what they mean. There is a button on the client side that says Ask My Advisor, and that will shoot you a notification that if you are their advisor of my client has a question on this. It allows you the opportunity to upsell this service and be able to help have a whole new conversation with your client and become an integral part of their business. We also have other add-ons that help with that as well. So where you need to get more detailed financial reporting, non-financial things like business planning, or KPI type information, and the why, and how, what if scenarios, that it can actually calculate those things for you so that you can provide that advice. Now, taking all of this technology allows us to change the staffing model. So this is where I'm getting into really some futuristic type things, but things I want to introduce to you that makes your firm attractive beyond the compensation. Coming back to purpose, coming back to what excites the younger generation. So this is a traditional firm staffing model, going from entry level to senior and manager and then partner. The research all comes back that this detracts the younger generation from wanting to come into your firm. Many of them are not interested in ever being a partner. So the firm of the past, when I came into an accounting firm, eyes wide open, I wanted to move into a partnership position just like this. This younger generation looks at partners and says, I don't want that life, and it doesn't give me purpose when I look at what they're doing. So what this means to us as accountants and firm owners is, how do we change the way the firm works in order to attract this younger generation? So it means bringing those walls down again. Creating this collaborative culture where everybody can be working together as a team and be discussing things throughout the day. Again, it's effort, not time and billing, and being able to hit those project timelines together as a team. So what this moves away from is a one-to-one client relationship. So the firms, many of the firms today is one client is assigned to one associate and you've got your workload. This instead is a team is working on a client workload. Now this is another example of one of our Xero advisors, that they have no walls and everybody is meeting remotely. And this is how the team gets together to do an all-hands meeting. So very new, innovative way to be able to still feel like you've got that personal relationship, but not have to feel like you see them in the office every morning before you get in and they're leaving after you leave. That's not what this is about in this new way. But because of the technology, you can actually deliver this. So what I'm proposing here is a whole different staffing model. Now, for those of you that don't have a firm, you may be some of these roles joined together. So I just want you to keep that in mind. These are all concepts of different job descriptions, but your firm may not be this big, and that's okay. You may pick and choose the roles that you want to play in your firm. So the bookkeepers, the advisors, the accountants, And the role that I'm proposing here is a customer success manager. Work as a team. So in these roles, they actually have a team client workload, but the only person talking to the client is the customer success manager or the advisor. The customer success manager actually acts as a project manager, making sure work is getting done on time, being delivered, not going out of scope, and so forth, where the advisor may work with the client to actually go through the results and advise them on their business. Now, like I said, you might be a bookkeeper and an advisor, and that's one role. That's totally fine, just for these purposes, giving you this example. So what this means is going back to choosing my purpose. My purpose is a vertical. Well, I may look at my purpose and say, I'm going to create teams in my business based on these different verticals. So there's an accountant, there's a bookkeeper, a customer success manager, an advisor, all working on different industries. So rather than my trajectory being a straight line, I get to work and collaborate as a team and become an expert in something that really matters to me. And the work is really exciting, and I'm always learning new technology. So there's also a firm operations team that takes care of deploying the technology, and that could be inside your firm or outside your firm, and you're actually outsourcing that work. Now, what this also means is what you saw on that last slide is there's a customer success manager in each of those vertical teams, but they actually have their own team of customer success managers where they can trade information, they can collaborate as a team as well. And then additionally, the customer success manager has another network, which is the client, cloud integrators, which for Xero are people that help clients and accounting firms figure out which add-ons go with Xero and so forth, and how you connect all of those. Having the relationships with the ecosystem vendors to know which is the right technology to deploy in each of these industries, and also with firm operations to make sure everything is moving through properly so that their team is efficient. So this is a very new way, but what it does is allow people to have multiple networks and also create different points of expertise, where in this example before, instead of me going up a partner. So what I wanted to show you today is this isn't new. So when you look at an office from the 1930s and you look at what I'm proposing today, this is actually how we work. This is how our immigrant generation, the beginning of accounting, was very relationship and connected and trading work with each other, not necessarily creating partner track firms, that it was sole practitioners dealing with each other or collaborating in open offices. And today, that is what this generation is also looking for, is a way to communicate and not feel siloed. So is that you want to take the Credence good, like I said before, where I don't know what you're delivering, into experience good. So I am so excited about what you're delivering. It really is a huge value to me. You want to leverage technology. You want to define what those value adds that you provide to attract the best talent into your firm and create an agile workplace. And if you want to see the full length of these Xero Unplugged videos, this is the link that you can go to. They're about 15 minutes each. We also have a video on there about the new way of recruiting this generation and some interview techniques you can do as well. So with that, let's do our last polling question.
All right, we're going to fire it off, Amy. Let me get to it real quick. Guys, what topic would you most want to learn about, even if it meant you had to take an hour out of your day during busy season to participate? And by the way, I'm the one that misspelled participate. I didn't copy paste it. I'm going to give everybody about 40 seconds. We are going to go 1 or 2 minutes over, but Amy, that was really cool. I was on mute, but when you brought it back full circle, I kind of was like, "Are you kidding me?" That's that's a big that's really big, and it really we spend so much time working with employers, especially firms hiring millennials, and I teach these concepts a lot, but that was something that was out of my wheelhouse, and I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through that. That is really cool. Okay, let me do this. I'll wrap up the poll and give you the final word since we're a minute or two over. But please do go ahead and submit, select one of the following. And I'll go ahead and close this out and show you the results. Let's share the results. So 48% are saying, I'm too busy for anything else, except for that you're on this webinar. But so
I appreciate that you all attended today.
No kidding. Grateful for being here. But also how to talk about my clients about additional services they may want. I had another mistake there on my rush, so I apologize. But you get the picture, right? Step-by-step training on how to set up a client in Xero. That was a big one. And also so it was split between how to use Xero's cashback for simple cash in, cash out, and how to process 1099s.
Great.
Amy, go ahead and wrap up, and I'll kind of curate a couple questions, but I don't think we're going to get to them. But I want you to have the last word.
Sure. So, for those of you that want to learn about these things or become a Xero partner, if you go to Xero.com, we have an accountants and bookkeepers menu option right when you go on Xero.com that you can learn about our partner program. It's absolutely free. Getting certified in Xero is free. We have e-learning that helps you get certified. It typically takes around 4 to 8 hours, depending on how long it takes you to learn. So you'll see here Xero U link with the extension of Xero Unplugged, but Xero U itself has all of our content. So the step-by-step training on how to set up a client in Xero, we actually have little videos that will take you through the steps of setting up a client on Xero that our professional services team uses with our firms to help them as well. So lots of great information on Xero U for those of you that are looking for that.
Xero is a great resource. Amy, how can they connect with you? Xero, I know, is on Twitter. I believe it's just at Xero. And yep. if you search for Twitter for Amy Vetter, you're going to find. What's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, my Twitter handle is Amy Vetter CPA.
Awesome. There are a few questions that we didn't get to, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. Sure. The CPA Academy is going to send out the slides of the presentation to everyone who attended. Number 2, we're going to write a blog post about this article, and we'll ask a couple questions. The questions that didn't get answered, and then send the audience the post. We'll go a little deeper into what we talked about today and put it on the Accounting Fly blog and maybe the Xero blog as well. So
great.
To quickly kind of not summarize, but just wrap it up, Amy, I just want to say thanks. Travel safe. Hope you take care of that cough, and it sounds like you managed just fine. Maybe you're able to get a glass of water, I hope. And I want to say thanks to everyone who was fighting through tax season. Good luck to you. We're thinking about you guys, and really appreciate you being on our webinar today. All right.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye for now.